back. Anita in San Antonio, Texas. You are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Congressman. With all due respect, I'm sure this Andrew Gilliam is a fine man, but he does not remind me of Barack Obama. Beto O'Rourke reminds me of Barack Obama.
There's your Texas spirit. I agree. You know, Beto came in my class 3 sessions ago, and, he is such a quality person. He's exactly the type of people you want to attract to politics. And, running for the U.S. Senate, I have had many conversations with him. The fact that he is going to every single county in Texas. Well, Ted Cruz wants to be wined and dined by the upper establishment in the Republican Party. This is a guy who's, rolling up his sleeves and getting dirty and talking to folks and doing exactly what you want a candidate to do. So I agree. Beto is another great example. I just going to tell you, Andrew Gilliam, when I met him, is such an innovative and smart thinker. We can have more than one people across the country that are the future, and I think both of them are falling in that category. I do agree.
But I just think he has like that it factor, that kind of, and maybe I'm partial because he is from Texas, but by the same token, I just think he has that special factor that Barack Obama had that attracted a lot of people to him. But I do want to ask you one question. I know that a lot of people have said the Trump voters have economic anxiety, and that's what the majority of them voted for Trump, not because they're racist and misogynists and xenophobes, but because of this economic anxiety. But the problem I have with that, and the question I have to ask you, is if that is the case, why don't people of color, the majority of people of color, vote for Trump? They have more, the majority of them, they have a more economic anxiety, relatively speaking, than a lot of these white Trump voters.
Yeah, no, great question. So let me give you Wisconsin as an example because we're a purplish state. Donald Trump narrowly won it by about 23,000 votes. I think now he's got the biggest drop-off of any state he won. His last approval in Wisconsin was 36%. 31% want him to run again. I found that very interesting. And, we've lost a lot of jobs. My hometown, Kenosha, Wisconsin, 14,000 people at its peak used to make cars. No one does today. So, he won Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania because of how he talked about trade. Of course, he's operating his trade policies, I think, in a very erratic way that don't necessarily represent that. But on top of it, I would argue much of his support does come from a racist basis. I mean, the rise of the Tea Party was about 50% racism because of Barack Obama getting elected, 50% of hardcore conservatism, and then it got fueled by Koch brothers and other people's monies, and then I think they created a Frankenstein they didn't quite know how to control, and here we are today. But I do think that a good chunk of the people who are still with Donald Trump are not because of his policies, because let's face it, this guy is incompetent is about the nicest thing I could say about him, and there's plenty more I should, but they're sticking with him because he's proven to be a racist in many of his actions, and I think that is a big chunk of the support he has. So if you're African-American or Latino and you're not doing well economically, you also know this guy will not do well for you in many other areas. So I think it's a compounding of those issues.
Andy in Heron, Montana, watching us on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, Congressman Pocan and Tom. This is another call about financial transparency. On the news a week or two ago when they were first talking about the detentions of illegal aliens, I heard them say that they were paying $775 per person per day to the detention facilities. And then in reading Blackwater, I read that they're paying these mercenaries $600 to $800 or more per day. There seems to be no transparency to let the public what is going on in what seems to be some other sort of crony capitalism. And I'm wondering if there isn't a method for federal control of how much we're paying out of our tax dollars for these privatization of essential needs.
Yeah, where's William Proxmire when you need him, Congressman?
Yeah. I'll tell you, Andy, a great point. We've brought this up. You could stay at every Trump hotel in the country instead of what we're paying these contractors in order to house folks. But we wouldn't have to pay them to house folks at all if we just had a better immigration system or we didn't abuse the system we have like this president has. So for all of the rhetoric from Republicans and from this president about being, good fiscal stewards, bull hockey, right? We can clearly show that that's not true in so many ways, and that's one great example of what a screwed up policy around immigration has done, it's costing us a lot of money, both in human terms and in tax dollars. And again, all the more reason why we need to have comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship for aspiring Americans.